Good afternoon, everyone. We will call today's Housing, Urban Development, and Zoning Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Cone.
Present.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Present.
Alderwoman Sanier.
Present.
Alderman Browning.
Present.
Chair Clark Hubbard.
Here.
We have 5 present. We have a quorum.
All right. With that, I'll accept the motion for the approval of the minutes from Tuesday, June 27, 2023.
So moved. Second.
All right. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanier.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Chair Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes.
All righty. Moving right along, I will recognize Alderwoman Tyus on Board Bill number 30.
Good morning. Can you all hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Do we need to move it any closer, STGB, or because I don't want her to be?
Is that better? Or is that okay? Okay. Good morning. I'm before the HUD's committee asking for your approval and favorable recommendation for Board Bill number 30. Board Bill number 30 is ordinance that amends a previous ordinance. I'm sorry, it's a board bill that amends a previous ordinance back from 68427, which was dated August 27th, 2009. That was when it was still the second ward. It was for a Chapter 99 redevelopment plan for the Cary Avenue, Boulevard Avenue, Adelaide Avenue, and North 3rd Street redevelopment. The previous board bill required that it be completed by 2009. For various reasons, it didn't get started and get done, and in fact, we went through COVID and everything else, so they are now back up doing the project, and there are a couple of things that they want done in this board bill. They don't want to change the tax abatement or anything like that. They want to change the space. The original space was for 450,000 square feet of commercial use. That has been changed to between 250 to 350,000 square feet of commercial use. And the second thing they want to change in the previous ordinance and amend is that it was supposed to be done by 2009. Obviously, it's 2023, so it could not be done. But they say promise to get the project done by 2025. It's a valuable project and will bring jobs and economic development to the abatement and the riverfront. And it's important that it be completed. And therefore, I am supporting it. I'm not a big tax abatement or TIF supporter, as some of you all may know. But once in a while, I will do them. This is important, and I am supporting it. And I would ask for your favorable recommendation.
Right. Do you have any speakers for Board Bill 30?
I do. I actually have a whole crew over there. 2 of them used to work for us. Did you all sign in? Did you sign in?
Yeah, they signed.
So do you want them in any order?
Whatever order.
Okay, whatever order you want to come. And we also have SLDC here. You have to say you are.
Yep. Good afternoon, Matt Bauer from Green Street.
Okay, and Madam Clerk, you can swear me.
Could you please raise your right hand for me? Do you affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm going to give some background on the redevelopment area. My colleague Aaron Murray is going to give some specifics on the planned development. So actually, the redevelopment area is total 47 acres. This development will be on a 19-acre site as part of the redevelopment area.
I'm sorry, sir. Could you introduce yourself to the public?
Oh, Matt Bauer, Green Street Real Estate Ventures.
Thank you.
There was an original development on the site that's still there today. It's Central States Thermal King. They are repair and sale of truck refrigeration equipment. That building is 50,000 square feet with 60 jobs, and it was completed in 2014. As Alderwoman Ty said, there's no change to the original tax abatement, 10-year full, 5 years at 50%, and just extends the deadline from the original deadline to 2025, and we fully plan to have the plan development completed by that new deadline. And it reduces the total square footage in the redevelopment agreement. And part of that's just due to the existing completion of CSTK. We are as Aaron will say, the new development will be 250,000 square feet, and we will satisfy the new square footage requirement. Overall, just some facts about the North Riverfront Industrial Development Corridor. And what Green Street other projects that Green Street has done there. In total, Green Street's developed 1.2 million square feet of industrial space up there, with $224 million invested in the area. And that area is part of both wards 12 and 13. That's really it. So I'll hand it over to Aaron to talk more about the specific plan development.
Hi, Aaron McMurray with Green Street.
Could you please raise your right hand for me? Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, committee. My name's Aaron McMurray. I'm with Green Street Real Estate Ventures. Green Street is proposing about a $34 million investment in the North Riverfront area, consisting of about a 250,000 square foot Class A light industrial space, which will have parking for tractor trailers, attractive landscaping, stormwater detention areas as well. We are anticipating that this development will create an additional 125 jobs in the area, which will build upon Green Street's initial investment, as Matt Bauer noted, and continue to serve as a catalyst and support future development in the area. So we're excited about the development and look forward to working with you to continue it. So that's all. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. And did SLDC want to do it?
Good afternoon, Zach Wilson, SLDC. Just to clear up a couple things, the original ordinance was passed in 2009. Final completion date was supposed to be February 1st, 2023. This board bill was introduced in a previous session and died last session, so that's why it's in front of you guys this session. And I showed a map of the northern section that was completed. The southern section has not been completed yet, and that's what we're working on right now.
All right. I'm going to open it up for questions from the committee members. But I'm doing a little housekeeping. We know that the mic up here, we do our best to, I don't want to make sure that we're getting it captured, but my mother's instincts are kicking in. I got to turn this fan on because I don't want any of you all to get too hot standing at the podium. And if you, you can get it from, okay. And if you do get to, I would turn it to who's on the podium.
I don't need it. I'm fine because I don't want us to lose what little electric we have. Okay, thank you. Okay,
All right. Alderman Cone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there a companion board bill to this, Alderwoman, or is it
No.
just board bill 66?
No, this is just amending one ordinance.
Or this is third reading?
Right.
Okay. So, and then, was there language in here for eminent domain, or is that in board bill 66?
That's in Board Bill 66.
Okay. And then the geographic area that we're discussing with board bill 30, it's all commercial, there's no residential, it's all in the Baden area.
You go over I-70, and it's an area that I was really unfamiliar with until I became the alderperson of it, because Baden was like a different place for me, but now I'm getting very familiar with it.
I think, this is one of those areas of the city that is undervalued, underappreciated, and sometimes requires a lot more investment just because of the changes in industry that take place from time to time over multitudes of decades. So happy to see that there's some more interest in investing in that part of our city and our commercial industrial areas. And thank you for bringing this before us. I do just want to make note for everyone that might be watching at home and those that are in the chamber. We're here today because our usual hearing room is under construction. So I appreciate all of you being here, and these accommodations that we have are a little unusual for us as well. We're typically not in this chamber except for our Friday full Board of Aldermen meetings. I am not as concerned about the electricity as the Alderwoman from the 12th is, because we light this place up on Fridays quite regularly for hours and hours on end. So I'm sure it'll be able to handle the bandwidth of our committee today. But thank you again for bringing this forward, and I look forward to supporting it. Thank you.
All right. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you for presenting this board bill. Alderman Tyus. It says for the circumstances warrant an extension of that deadline as no development has yet taken place. So there has been some of this development at the site, or has not?
So it's a big site, so it's been some development in parts of it, but not this particular area.
Okay,
And the board bill was introduced under the prior Alderwoman from the second, but it didn't get passed out, so it got messed up, and so that's why we're here now.
just to figure out the timeline, just to make sure I understand the timeline. 2009, the original redevelopment plan ordinance passed.
Correct.
2022-23, it was supposed to be updated, but we didn't get it through.
Correct.
And now we're coming back up.
Correct. So this is the third alderperson. It
Sure.
started out under Alderwoman Flowers.
Okay. What circumstances warrant the extension? It just says circumstances warrant an extension.
For one thing, we had COVID, and we changed everything down here. You're kind of used to what was changed, but it wasn't like that. And a lot of development, a lot of things stopped. We had to even figure out what was going on. So that was one of the first primary circumstance to me, is that all of a sudden you can't get goods, you can't get stuff that you need. Right now, I have a park that's been held up for 4 or 5 years because they can't get the parts to do certain things. So that happened with industry also. You don't have the manpower or construction. There's a lot of things that happen that warrant for it to be extended.
Just from 2009 to now.
Well, no. Remember, so 2009, some of it did get done. It was supposed to be done in 2000, and that's what he was clearing up. It was supposed to be done in 2023. Is that correct? Right. And it didn't get done in 23. So it's really only we're extending it just 2 years. 2009 was the original project, which some steps did get done.
Right. And I know it takes a really long time once this sort of stuff passes to actually move forward. And of course, 2008 saw its own challenges and the recovery after that. So I do understand that. So the entire site, is there a reason? So some of the projects has already been done. Was what makes up for the 100,000 feet of space? That went from 450,000 to an estimated 250,000 to 350. So I just want to know a little bit more about the use of space.
Okay, and I'll say, can I just answer and I'll let him answer? What I'm seeing, because I've been doing development since 1991 at this board, I'm seeing that things are becoming in smaller because people don't want as much brick and mortar as they used to, because we'd go into a different kind of economy. So that's, to me, one of the reasons that I supported what was going on. They may have different reasons, but for me, I'm looking at trying to put a hardware store. We started with this gigantic thing. It's not going to probably be that, just because it's not 1991 anymore, and people buy stuff online, and people do things differently. And so, to me, I don't want to overbuild if I'm the developer, but I'll let them speak for themselves. Okay.
Just to add, so I think two things. One, that the timing between the two is just, a lot of it was just market conditions. And I think we attempted to market it over the years, and it just wasn't hitting the market. Now, with COVID and the growth of the industrial sector, we're seeing more demand for that, and it's more feasible to do it at this point. It's just wasn't in that time. And also during that time, there were significant improvements to not specifically this redevelopment area, but the whole area around there that has increased the marketability of the North Riverfront in general. And then on the square footage, I think I wasn't involved in the original build to get to 450. I think the original vision was probably one 200,000 square foot building and another 250,000 square foot building. But once you get opportunities, you kind of take what you're given. And I think the CSDK opportunity, which was the original development, was a smaller building, but it was a high value building with a lot of refrigeration equipment and parking needs for retrofitting trucks for refrigeration abilities. So we kind of started out on our back foot because it was a smaller building. I mean, really, for the room that's left to redevelop, that 250 square foot is 250,000 square foot building really maximizes the remaining 19 acres of the site. It's probably about the biggest building we can fit on there. So I think really the change in the square footage requirement is just driven by the original development that came to pass.
And this is a question probably for you, Mr. Wilson. I'm interested in knowing, of course, in 2009, we had a different process for moving a bill like this through the board, different scoring system. Can you speak a little bit about how this project would score with today's metrics set up by SLDC?
To be honest with you, we don't know what project they're bringing in front of us in the future. So they got a small window of 2 years to bring us a new project. Once they bring us a new project, then we'll score it. This tax abatement stays at up to 15 years. So if the project changes or is brings not enough money to the city, we can lessen that abatement. So we just don't know the project yet. So to score
So we'll be seeing more of this project after this bill.
you guys will not. LCRA will be.
Okay. Okay. I'll let my other committee members.
Alderman Browning?
Just have a question about infrastructure around the site. If you're introducing more activity to the area, are there planned infrastructure upgrades? I realize it's a rather industrial area, but if we're introducing more traffic, or if there's any other kind of infrastructure that's being done, what are the plans for that, and how is that increased traffic being planned to handle?
Do you want the developer or
Whoever can answer that question.
Did you hear it? There's someone on stage.
In the wider area, I mean, that exit, I'm not sure exactly what street off of 170. I mean, if you go on Google Maps and look at before and after, I mean, it's night and day up there to what it was. I think in addition, we've widened the road. We've widened one of the roads there to allow access for other tenants. The streets have largely been redone. As part of this project itself, we will, they'll be fenced and the surrounding streets and sidewalks will be like upgraded a little bit. And then also there's been a lot of environmental remediation on this site specifically, about $4 million of environmental remediation on that site. So we have a NOFA for this site specifically. So it's a clean site now. It was not when we acquired it. So going forward, we'll be developing on a clean site.
Okay, thank you. And maybe I missed it, but do we know who the tenant is going to be?
Right now, we don't. It's being built as a spec building. We're always in contact with potential tenants, but we can't say who that is right now. But whether we have a tenant before we start building or not, we're gonna be moving forward with it as a spec building.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
All right, Vice Chair Sanye?
Sorry, I think this question would be for Green Street. Are you all up to date on all of your current property taxes and things of that nature?
What's that?
Sorry, this might. Are you all up to date on all of your current property taxes and things of that nature?
Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
My name's David Sweeney. I'm an attorney with Lewis Rice representing Green Street. To date, they have entered into agreements with the city and on a
Are
plan.
you talking to the mic?
Yeah, I'm
please?
sorry.
It's okay.
It's a first. Yes, I'm not used to speaking down here. Yes, they are in a plan right now with the city to be totally caught up within the next 12 months. I mean, they own a significant amount of property, as you know, throughout the city, and are working on several different things and are in contact with SLDC and the collector's office.
Okay, thank you.
All right, did anyone else have any follow-up questions? Okay, Alderwoman Tyus, welcome to close.
Thank you. The last question was especially important because I don't believe in people getting tax abatement in the first place. Pretty much, if you check, you'll see the alderman from the 3rd and I voted no a lot on some things that were in the 17th ward because they got a lot of TIF and tax abatement. But it is important to me that you pay your taxes. We have to support the St. Louis Public Schools. So I probably have done the least amount of tax abatement and got things done without that. If they did not have some kind of agreement, I would not be before you asking for them to continue their project, because it's important that all people pay their proper amount of taxes, from the smallest person to the largest corporation, which we let get away with a lot of times with things. So thank you for that question. That was very important. The other questions were very important, but that was very important. And I know as a former member of the school board, that should have been an important thing for you. I come before you today to ask for a favorable consideration of Board Bill number 30. I believe it's a good project. There's a lot of things in North St. Louis that people miss sometimes that could be done, especially along the riverfront and in the Baden area. And so I intend to work with them while I'm there doing some things that, and I've been meeting with them. And the alderman from the 13th, we represent a lot of that. The alderman from the 14th also has some of it. So we have 3 aldermen that touch a lot of the north side riverfront, which wasn't the case before this. It was all under one ward, so this is good. That gives us more time to put some energy into it, which will bring more taxes into our community. I think this is a great project. I look forward to it being completed. I actually, 2 of the people that are speaking before us used to be our attorney and our development. Dr. Hollins is excellent. He brings me anything I'm going to hear. Our former attorney was Dave Sweeney. He's a great person. I don't know the people from Green Street as much, but I intend to. And I know Mr. Wilson for a long time. And I don't think he would be bringing a development that didn't have all the things before us that we're supposed to have. So I would ask for your favorable consideration of Board Bill 30.
I'd like to move that we pass Board Bill number 30 out with a new pass recommendation.
Second.
Madam,
Previous roll.
hearing no objections, congratulations, Alderwoman Tyus, because Board Bill number 30.
Thank you very much.
Moving right along, Board Bill 66.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Board Bill 66 is a dream come true for me. I've said this before. I have chased Miss Robbie from the county to Manchester to Delmar, and now finally to the 12th Ward. I have tried to get her into the Kingsway East neighborhood for over 20-something years. Every time she would move someplace, I would say, but we just got a spot for you over in the Kingsway East neighborhood. It didn't end up being where I wanted it because I wanted her own natural bridge, but she has now chosen to be on the edge of both the 10th and the 12th Ward, which is a great place to be. She's back across, this is for a blighting bill, 99 redevelopment for the 4923 through 4949 Dr. Martin Luther King redevelopment area. There is a eminent domain in here because I live in the Kingsway East neighborhood for 37 years. My husband was born and raised and has been there the whole time. The whole time that we've lived there, most of the 30-some years we've been there, that property that we're doing the blighting with eminent domain has been vacant. It used to be a Buttons and Bows, and they did alterations, but through the years that was became vacant. Somebody bought it, and they were supposed to be doing a catering. That didn't really work out. I've been reaching out to him for a couple of years now, trying to talk to him. What was he going to do? And he didn't respond to anything. I don't do blighting with eminent domain very easily, but this has been vacant. And if you go on the city's website, you can take due process notice of the city's website through the years from like 2008, 9, 10. It's just been sitting up there. And I think that at some point you have to look at Dr. Martin Luther King as a tribute to somebody that's very important. And so for me, it's worth, if you're not going to do anything, if the person had responded back to me and told me some kind of plan, maybe I wouldn't have done that. But there was no plan, there was no response, there was absolutely nothing, and it's not well kept. The grass is not, and this is a fabulous development that we're going to have here. Miss Robbie is somebody I've known for a lot of years. I'm going to tell you all a secret. Tina Turner is my mother's third cousin. So I've been knowing her as Anna Mae Bullock since I've been a little girl. And I've known Miss Robbie for a long time. So I just am so excited about this project. And it's going to be Sweetie Pies. What is the name too? Second act, okay? And we're looking for some other good things that's going to come around with this development. And I think it's going to really help Martin Luther King on both sides of Martin Luther King. And so I come before you asking for a positive support of Board Bill 66.
Right. You know we want this St. Louis royalty to come on up here and speak to us. And Mr. Busty, you both can come up at the same time. You're sworn in.
Hello, hi everybody. My name is Robbie Montgomery.
Ms. Robbie, could you raise your right hand?
I'm going too fast.
Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. So like I said, my name is Robbie Montgomery. I'm the proprietor of Sweetie Pie's Restaurants. I'm the owner of the Sweetie Pie brand. I have intentions of moving to 4949 Martin Luther King. I want to put a Sweetie Pie's second act there because, as you know, the veterans brought me out over on Delmore. I would still be there, but they brought me out. And Miss Sharon has been trying to get me to come to her area. So finally, when I saw that building, I called her. I said, "Is this in your ward?" And so she said yes. So I was really happy because I had previously wanted to go to her ward. So at 4949, I'm planning on opening a Sweetie Pie's restaurant. The building is 11,000 square feet. So we're going to have a really, really nice restaurant. I'm across the street from the Urban League, who has been my neighbor on Delmore. So I like the plans that they got going. So I would love to be a part of that. I plan on hiring maybe 25 to 50 people more if the business permits. I believe in second chances, so I will hire women in shelters and, people that have been incarcerated that I feel is worthy of the job. So I will be trying to bring that community back. I grew up over in that area, but it was called Easton, and we had a lot of Black restaurants there. So I'd like to see that happen again. Usually wherever I go, other business follows. So that's my plan for this one, trying to get other business to come into that area so we can get our Easton back by the name of Martin Luther King. So I'm planning on spending like maybe $4 million, less if possible. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I enjoy opening my restaurants. I enjoy being a part of the community, helping out, giving jobs, and doing things like that. I have a lot of people that come up and tell me that I inspire them. I enjoy that. I enjoy when people tell me that they love the food. So I'm just all about the restaurant business, and I'd love to have it over Martin Luther King.
Thank you. Thank you so much. SLDC, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Don't come after that.
No, come on.
Right.
Sometimes you just say no.
I can't touch that, but if you have any questions, we have it.
Okay. All righty. Mr. Bussey, you have anything you want to add? Okay. All right. Well, we'll start. Alderman Cone.
Thank you. This is the old Family Dollar site on MLK, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that location, and that Family Dollar was never very well maintained in the first place. So it's nice to see that you'll be investing in the community and rebuilding from scratch, basically, because that's a heck of a site, and it is a very prominent block, certainly. And so it's nice to see that you're willing to take that step out and be the first to invest in that community, or reinvest, I should say, in that community. And very happy to see that happen. So, and I am a little starstruck myself, I'll admit, and not just because of your presence, but your food is just absolutely divine. And I adore you from afar on so many levels, and very much respect what you've done with your business here in St. Louis. And thank you for making St. Louis your home and keeping it your home.
Thank you.
All right, Alderwoman Slicer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It would be wonderful if SLDC could walk us through a little bit of the exhibits and findings, apply all of that information that's on in the board bill.
Ms. Robbie, you can sit right here if you want to, so you don't have to stand up the whole time.
We have Andrew Knopp, who will go over the commercial scorecard, community scorecard with you. Andrew Knopp will go through the community scorecard with you, and then Jacob Nera will go through the physical scorecard with you.
Great.
Thank you.
Do I need to get sworn in?
Yes, go ahead and do it just in case.
Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So again, I'm Andrew Knopp at SLDC. So I think this might be the first project we've actually brought before you using our community benefit scorecard. So hopefully you have the slides. This project scores a 47, which puts it solidly into tier 2 level of abatement. So
Could you please speak into the mic?
yeah, I'm sorry. So I'll just repeat that. This scores a 47 on the community benefits scorecard, which puts it solidly into tier 2, which therefore makes it eligible. There we go. That seems better.
We're gonna get it together.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, tier 2, that makes it eligible for up to 25 years of abatement, 10 years at 90%, 10 years at 50%. And just as a small refresher, that sets a ceiling, and then we use the financial analysis that Jake talks about to dial in on an appropriate level of abatement. So then I'll just run through quickly where this project scores its points. So it's located in Economic Justice Index Area 2. So that ranks from 1 to 5, and as part of SLEC's Economic Justice Action Plan, they index the city according to need and opportunity. And so this is an area of higher need and also higher opportunity. 20 points for that. The plan is for there to be 25 FTE jobs. So for the job creation, 7 points. This is, a minority woman-owned business, 5 points for that. The building has been vacant since 2020, so we're bringing investment back into a vacant spot, 5 points. It was also a historic building built in 1922, 5 points for the historic preservation. It has solid public transit access. It's within a quarter mile of a bus stop. And then the total capital investment of just over $3.9 million gives it 2 points. So, clearly this is an investment in an area that we desire, minority woman-owned business, some job creation, and bringing vacant historic buildings back to life. So for those reasons, I think it's a good project. I'll give it to Jake to talk about the financials.
Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. As Andrew mentioned, this is a significant investment in, my name is Jake Knapp. I'm a financial analyst for SLDC. This is a significant investment in MLK. This is kind of a unique project. In addition to all the new property tax revenue, this will also spin off significant sales tax revenue. So we modeled this at $225 sales per square foot. This is a 10-year benefit.
Talk a little bit more to that.
Oh, sorry. So this has a significant sales tax spinoff in addition to the increased property taxes. So we modeled the restaurant space for sales of $225 a square foot, which we feel is a fairly conservative number, particularly for kind of a destination restaurant like this is. Says a 10-year fiscal benefit to the city of $180,000, increasing to $423,000 over 20 years, and a benefit to the school district of just under $20,000 over 10 years, increasing to $120,000 over 20 years after that abatement burns off. Often you'll see those numbers kind of flipped because the school district is the largest recipient of property tax revenue, but because there's so much sales tax revenue associated with this project, you see the much higher numbers for the city as well as the schools. So based on $2.5 million in hard costs, we'd also see impacts for minority-owned businesses of $600,000 through those contracts and $275,000 for women-owned businesses. The abatement has a fairly modest value. Commercial assessments in this area of the city just aren't that high. So we're seeing a net present value of about $60,000 over the term of the abatement and a nominal value of about $80,000. Baseline property tax revenue at the site is $6,000. We would see that increase to $6,500 during the abatement because it was a 95% abatement, and then about $17,000, so almost 3 times as much after the abatement's complete.
So I have a question about the tier 2 level. It says on our presentation here, tier 2 with a score of 40 to 49, and maximum abatement term is 10 years, and maximum abatement level is 90. But this is saying maximum 10 years and with 95%, so I'm confused.
Right, so I would let Zach and Andrew speak to this as well. I think the logic here is that at tier 2, the maximum abatement period would be 10 at 90 followed by 10 at 50, and the value of 10 at 95 is less than the value of 10 at 90 plus 10 at 50.
Except we don't know if there'll be another bill, you know, I mean, we are just considered a bill that we extended for 2 years, you know? So it's sort of, why do we have these guidelines?
Can you repeat that, please?
You know, sometimes we have bills that amend previous bills. We have bills that, you know, go back and look at ordinances we passed before and change them, but we have these guidelines that say 10 years and 90%. So why would we not follow that?
No, that's a very good point, but our thought process was to waive the 5 years at 50 to drop down to 10 at 95, but we can amend it to a 10 90 or from here on out, max it out at 90 for properties like that, so.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, you know, you created the scorecard in order to have the specifics that were followed and not have, you know, I feel like if there's things that are changing in a bill, then we need to have more of a process about why it might change or what the exceptions would be. So that makes me a little uncomfortable. Well, I think this is an incredible project, and I'm so excited about it. I don't understand why we're not following what's in the scorecard.
No, we would not definitely give this 20 years of abatement. I forget what tier 2 is right now.
I'm having a hard time.
I don't recall what exactly tier 2 is right now, but we wouldn't give maximum amount of abatement for this project after the financial analysis. Thank you. The point is, we lowered it because the financial, the score of it, that's why it was in the 10 years range. But I understand your concern moving forward, so we can easily adjust anything from moving forward, max at 10 and 90 for tier 1 projects. And to be honest with you, those community scorecards are about to be adjusted once we get a sustainability manager at the planning department, because they're adding points to that category. Once we draft a new scorecard, we'll roll out the final version of this so everyone's on the same page.
Right, but we don't have that yet. Right, but now we have
Correct.
max of tier 2.
Right.
Maximum 10 years at 90%.
Correct.
And we are not establishing a second period here.
No, we're not.
But we could.
We could.
But that's not in this bill, and it's
No, it's not. If the max in the board bill is 10 to 95. That's the max is. Yes.
Even though it's the tier 2 project.
Correct. Yes. We don't. Once, as we say, this community scorecard creates the ceiling for the abatement. Once we do the financial analysis, that hones into exactly what abatement we do give them. So in the board bill, we give exactly what we state in the scorecard, financial scorecard. So we scored at 10 and 95. So that's what the board bill reflects.
might have more questions. I'm just gonna let my pass it on for now.
Okay, Alderman Browning.
Thank you. First, let me just say I do miss having sweetie pies in Forest Park Southeast. I miss seeing the long line out the door on Sundays of everybody dressed in their Sunday best going all the way down Tower Grove Avenue. I do have a question about the use of eminent domain here. If you could just reiterate the efforts made to contact the current owner and what the current condition of the property is. I just think we should be very sparingly use of eminent domain, and I'm sure you feel the same way. So I just would like to hear a little bit more about that.
So first of all, let me tell you, when I did my Snooks project, there was a little piece of property that had been vacant for 30 years, and that's at Union and Natural Bridge. I've held the project up for over a year for them to reach out and contact that person. And finally, when she just was, because what happens, once somebody knows there's a development, then they think their property is worth $5 billion. You probably know that. So I finally had to say, okay, I'm going to put him in the domain. Immediately she did that. I want to say at Kings Highway and Natural Bridge, when we did the Walgreens, we offered him, his project came out, the offer for his gas station was $350,000. I talked the city into offering him $700,000 and some odd thousand, because I didn't want to do eminent domain. It was a continuing open business. He refused. He died. SLDC had a second on it. His family got zero. The reason why I live in this community, so I know how long this property has been vacant, because I knew the previous owner was Button and Bowes. It's not this. It's not the former grocery store, Dollar General. It is a building next to it. And I knew the owner, personal friend of our family. When he sold it, the guy who got it, but I've called him so many times. I think I can find a letter that I sent to him. I called people that I thought that knew him to try to get to him. I talked to, there's a cleaners, Nedrick's Cleaners is right. I went to talk to her. In fact, up and down Martin Luther King, I've walked up and down that part of it, because although it was always in my ward, I had lost it back in '91 when they pushed everything north. And so I didn't have it. It was in the 18th ward and the 26th ward and different wards. So it never was me. So once I got it back, I walked all of Martin Luther King to talk to the people personally. He just wouldn't. I kept calling and calling, and it's the correct number. He would not respond. I heard back from other people who said he wasn't going to sell his property. And a lot of what I want to say is not very productive talk went on, but never to me. I am very much opposed to eminent domain, but I'm also opposed to somebody sitting in the middle of property for a long time, and I am not going to do anything with it, just going to sit up there and let it be a negligent piece of property in the community. Martin Luther King is a prominent border for the Kingsway East neighborhood. Most of us who live there, if you go down the 4900 block, we work really hard on keeping that nice. People own their properties, and yet you get to Martin Luther King and it was horrible looking. And the other thing is, I don't want you to overlook the power of star power. At one point, we almost had Magic Johnson at Page and Kings Highway, and some people who owned the Sears building at the time turned him down. That was a mistake. I lost him on Natural Bridge. When you have projects like this for North St. Louis, it brings so many other people. The minute the press said, oh, that Sweetie Pies was going at this corner, everybody started calling me, I want to come there. Okay, that's a plus that you cannot even put in terms of a tax abatement, because that means I can do other stuff without tax abatement, because they're calling me now. So as far as taking his property, I know how the process actually works. People think we just take it. You actually have to go through court. You have to have 3 people who sit on a hearing, and then they have to decide. Everybody gets to put their case before, and they have to decide how much the property is worth. So we're not talking about taking something, but we're talking about not letting a piece of property that's on a prime piece of real estate that's dedicated to the tribute of somebody that I think most of us all respect just sit there 8, 9 years or more. That's ridiculous, okay? And then not responding, but putting information out to other people so it can get back is not the way you do business.
Thank you. I appreciate you speaking to that a little more. Just doing due diligence here. So my understanding that this Anderson's banquet facility that is going to be acquired by eminent domain here, and what is the planned use of that site? The renderings here we show the former Family Dollar, but what's the use of the banquet facility site?
So I think what I understood her to do is that they're gonna have a conference center or something else, another center. So you can do other things when you have more land, okay? That is a small amount of land there. I mean, it's back in many years ago, that was a great site for a grocery store, but now that wouldn't be a Walgreens, wouldn't even be big enough. And it's not deep because it only goes to the alley, so you need to spread out. So that's what she's doing. I actually talked even to the cleaners about what she was gonna do and hoping that we could, to have a deal with her, because we wanna bring I have another restaurant that wants to come there. We have several restaurants now that want to be next to Sweetie Pies, okay? So it would be a conference center, and then we have a LRA property next to that, then we have a cleaners, then we have a LRA property, and I'm actually working in the 47 and 48 and 4900 through 5300 blocks of Martin Luther King, making that the first thing that we address and try to do things. So to go back, it's going to be part of the conference center, so you could be able to have banquets and other things with Sweetie Pies there with that addition. But they can be done separately. But at any time, he can still reach out to me, because most certainly it's been in the newspaper now. And if I was he, I would have reached out and said, hey, I want to have a conversation.
Thank you. Yes, I've actually, just looking at them now, I see several news articles about this, clearly generating excitement. I do wish you the best of success. I love what you bring, and just, wishing for both you and for you, Alderwoman, continued development along that corridor. It's needed, and I hope this is something that really spurs further development. Thank you.
And I also want to give shout out to the Urban League, because in the 10th Ward, my former colleague anyway, Michael McMillan, who I helped train. You hear that, Michael? So they are doing great things with the property across the street. They have the Sears building now, and he has been out doing just beautification. That's one of my things, putting flowers and green space and things like that. We're going to be working hand in hand with him. Ms. Robbie talked about the fact that when she was over on Delmar, he was over across the street. I would always come in there and see he and the mayor eating in there. He had to go on a diet after Ms. Robbie, moving away from Ms. Robbie, so we're going to have to keep him away from there, because he's thin and svelte now. But if Miss Robbie's right around the corner, it's hard. It's going to be hard for me, because it's about 8 blocks from my house. And so anytime I don't want to cook, as soon as that's open, I'll be right there every Sunday eating. But I can't even tell you how, I've never not been this excited since I built a school and a grocery store, just to pursue somebody for 20-something years. And to have them now come to the community, it's just so exciting for me and my community. And I don't want somebody else to be in pain. And I think if you care about your property, you would have reached out by now. And I don't do this is my second eminent domain in 31 years. So that tells you how much I don't do eminent domain. What's Ms. Ross?
I'm sorry, but I don't want to spend $4 million on a building with a vacant building standing next to me when I can make that a part of my Act 2 in that neighborhood. I mean, I don't know how much money you got, but I don't have a lot. And I don't want to put all my money and come in there every day and see a raggedy building sitting next to me when I'm capable of doing something with it. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
It's understood. I yield the rest of my time to my colleagues. Thank you.
All right. Vice Chair Syed.
Same thing first. I don't think you can grow up in St. Louis without knowing Sweetie Pies, without knowing Miss Robin. So I went to SLU. I used to walk around all the time if I wanted a home cooked meal, couldn't make it home to Sweetie Pies. So I just want to thank you for being the pioneer that you are and all the work and service you've done in our community. I am backtracking a little bit, but I'm just wondering, in reference to Board Bill 30, Zach, I know that Green Street mentioned that they have a contract arrangement. Is there a way that they can be sent to the committee to catch up on their taxes? They said they entered into an agreement with the city. I would just like to see that, that paperwork for that.
So what I'll do, let me answer. What I'll do is, before I move it any further, I will get that and get it to the clerk, or Madam Chair, do you want it sent to you?
That's fine. Yeah, we can share it with the committee.
With you?
Yes.
Okay, and then she can give it to the committee.
Thank you. I had some questions about eminent domain, but I think I understand now, and even an amendment, because I wanted to be prepared in case I wasn't satisfied, but I understand, so I'm glad that you did your due diligence with eminent domain. I know that's a difficult call, and I didn't have much context before this, so thank you for that. I do share some of Alderwoman Schweitzer's concerns, not specific to this project, but I think it's really important as a board that if we have documentation that's guiding the public and we saying these are the rules for incentives, this is the criteria. I understand what you're saying about, oh, well, a second one, but one, there's no language in this bill that prevents it from coming up for any other, later on, and we don't know what would happen. Maybe it will be a need for that to happen. But I am also uncomfortable, and I'm not sure that's doing a good service to people who keep saying we want consistency in this process if we're giving above what we say in the current criteria that we have, if we're going above that.
Would you like to see some language that says if there's a need to do something set more that we, because we can amend the bill, okay, that would say that if there's a need to do some other things that it would come back before this committee?
For sure. And maybe even, I don't know how you all feel about going with 90 since that's what our tier says. I didn't understand too, I know he was explaining something, but he was a little bit away from the mic about 5% above. Again, this is the rubric that we have. It's the rubric I got in Alder orientation. I just want to make sure we're being consistent.
So, and then I'm gonna let him speak. So what I wanna say is, I don't agree with that in a box things, because things are different. They can give that kind of score, but when you've not had any kind of development like this on Martin Luther King, I don't care, and I'm not, so you hear this, never hear this from my mouth again, I would give them 100%, okay? I just will do what it takes to get this done, because it will set the tone for what happens afterward. And the Alderman from the 10th already knows Martin Luther King looks horrible up and down there. It is a disrespect to Martin Luther King. If you go to San Diego, there Martin Luther King is beautiful. A lot of places in big cities do not have Martin Luther King that looks like something. I actually had the meeting of the Kings. We call that the meeting of the King's Highway and Dr. Martin Luther King. And whatever I need to do to get this project done, I will do it, because you cannot use the same criteria for some place that hadn't had any. Okay, I know we tried to make something, and sometimes rules are pretty good for everything, but they're not for everything. And when you haven't had any, and I don't do tax abatement, I've built stuff without tax abatement. I don't do eminent domain. I told you it's my second one in 30 years. So I'm very protective about not doing that. And I actually took a big hit politically back in the 90s because I wouldn't give SNCCs tax increment financing. But this is something that's very, very important. And I think that is a reason to be outside the box and an exception. And I'll let him speak to you.
I'll just add, I was the sponsor of the initial bill that required the development reports from SLDC. We had discussion around this during those committee hearings and on the floor and whatnot of the Board of Aldermen. The rubric that's there is a recommendation based off of metrics that's provided to SLDC, and it's their recommendation. And we were very explicit during those conversations. An alderperson can still introduce legislation that's outside of the recommendation of SLDC. It's up to this body as to whether or not they would support legislation that is outside of the recommendation of SLDC, but the requirement is just for SLDC to perform an analysis and make a recommendation. We can either accept that recommendation as an individual alderperson or a body, or as an alderperson, we can submit a board bill or introduce a board bill that is outside of those recommendations, either being more generous or less generous than that recommendation might be. But that is in order for an applicant to understand what the criteria are and what the potential incentives may be based off of the analysis that's done by SLDC. So it's not meant or intended to put us into a box with respect to every single project that comes before us. And I think in situations like this, to the alderman or alderwoman of the 12th's comments earlier, you have a situation where this is a commercial development there aren't a lot of commercial developments taking place in this area. So there's not really a good benchmark available for newly developed commercial properties within this area. It does not really exist because this is an area that has seen so much disinvestment. So property values are going to be lower because of that. And as a result of that, your incentive or the gap that's needed to incentivize this project is going to need to be larger as a result of that. That might fit outside of this particular matrix or rubric or recommendation from SLDC. So I just, for my part, having been part of that conversation, having sponsored the bill, this was intended to provide, some openness and transparency in terms of the process, in terms of setting expectations for applicants, but it was not intended to put people into boxes with respect to individual development opportunities within their respective neighborhoods.
Both Alderman, I hear your concerns. Moving forward, we'll cap it at what tier it is, and if there's any changes on there, we'll note why those changes or requests for those abatements, why are those requests being made. So I definitely hear you. So.
Yeah, I think that's what you mentioned about just adding the language about making sure, that they revisit is fine by me.
Okay, do you want it done before we pass it out, or would you accept a floor substitute when we get to perfection?
Can we do it as a friendly amendment, or do we have to?
It's not prepared, or we weren't prepared for that, so it's, I'll give you my word, then I will look at what we can do and then bring it before you all on the floor, because we still gotta have second reading. I wasn't gonna suspend the rules or anything, so we have the summer to work out language.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Can you repeat the words that were going to be used in the potential amendment that you were talking
And
about?
that's what we're gonna work out, because she had some concern about if they came back for some more, there was nothing that prevented them from coming back for some kind of second change or some kind of change. So we will address specifically what her concerns are and put it in there that if we have to come back and do something, that we can bring it back before the Board of Aldermen. And I can't tell you the specific wording because I wasn't prepared for that to be the question. But it's a valid question and it can be added in, is what I'm saying.
Right. I feel pretty, passionate about following these scorecards and having that be the guide, especially because we did set a maximum of 90. So it's supposed to be that would be, like it says, the maximum, and that it might be more likely to be under that maximum sometimes. Not setting up the second 10-year period is sort of interesting too, because then it could be 10 years at 50%. So, what's the rationale for instead of doing 10 years at 90% and 10 years at the maximum of that additional 5%, that would be the difference between 90 and 95.
Do you want me to answer?
I mean, whoever, I don't understand why we wouldn't follow the scorecard.
Because again, what the Alderman just said, because the scorecard was based on anticipation of what certain neighborhoods, you can't know all of this if you haven't done anything. When you're trying to set a rule for something where there's nothing been done before, it is a very different thing. A lot of this was not done for my neighborhoods, it was done for neighborhoods who had way too much going on and was getting huge amounts, and I can name the neighborhoods, the wards. So it wasn't ever aimed toward the former 20th, 1st, or now 12th ward. It was aimed at downtown and Central Quarter, who had just had such big, large amounts of tax abatement tips and things like that, that we had to bring that in. So it was not to then hamper the places that got little or no development. And so it was based on that spectrum, not what is actually before you now. I also like to follow rules, but there are always exceptions to the rules, okay? And this is an exception.
Sure. I don't know about the term aiming. I mean, it does set up tier 1, tier 2.
I'm sorry, you don't know about the term? I couldn't hear you.
I would say that this is aimed, if you will, towards the entire city, and by setting up tiers, it gets to your exact point. So some areas are going to perform are going to get higher points based on the factors that you just outlined. One of the things I wonder about is we're at 47 points now, and no matter what, it doesn't allow for over 90%, even if it had gotten into the 50 or point or more scorecard. So I guess I just don't understand why we're not following the scorecard, doing 10 years at 90, and then setting up an additional period
Because
to follow the scorecard.
because we want this project to happen and we don't want anything to get in the way. And I don't want to be here 5 years from now saying we lost Magic Johnson at Page and Kings Highway, because it's a value that you can't even put in that matrix about when you have people like Miss Robbie and Sweetie Pies and the potential for a television show and all of the value that brings in for the city of St. Louis and the comeback and all of that. So that cannot be put in that little box right there. And that's more valuable than us sticking to a 5% or 10%. That's why.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? I just would still like to chime in and thank you, Ms. Robbie and Mr. Busby, and for your commitment, right, and wanting to step out and step on this uniquely disinvested area, step out in this uniquely disinvested area. I share Alderwoman Tyus' passion about whatever it would take, right, to have something like you, and about the immeasurable value that a business like yours brings to our community. And if you haven't been around those communities, then you don't know. You would never be able to feel the way, the passion again that not only Alderwoman Tyus, but I know others share, and the vision that we know you bring to our communities and wanting to stay, because so many leave and never even think about coming back. So again, thank you. I support this project. I supported the work that SLDC is doing. I know that I commend you, Mr. Wilson, for getting up and making promises. But let me tell you, if it's something that needs to come out that box in the 10th Ward, I'll be up there fighting just like Alderwoman Tyus is, because again, we know. Nobody knows the specific fights that we have to do to get development, just even interest in some of our neighborhoods, let alone getting it this far. So congratulations, and with that, I will invite Alderwoman Tyus up to close.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee, I come before you regarding Board Bill 66, asking for a favorable vote. I want to tell you that the chairwoman has really brought home how important it is about development in North St. Louis. When I came there, I moved to North St. Louis, I'm not from there, in 1986. And they didn't have a grocery store, hardware store, Snooks, a pharmacy, they didn't have a school, all these things. And I promised all these things. I still got my original piece of literature that I ran on, and I got checks by all of them. And people kept saying to me, Alderwoman, we can't have a Snooks. There's no Snooks in North St. Louis. And I had lived in the Central Quarter, and I had lived in South St. Louis. And I was like, sure, there are 5 Snooks in the city. They're just not in North St. Louis. And so you have to dream a big dream for North St. Louis. You have to let people tell you what you cannot do and how it will not work. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because it did work. I did $57 million of it can't be there. So you just heard me say, I pursued Miss Robbie for 20 years. I went to her restaurant when she was out in the county. I went to her restaurant in the Grove, where I used to live in Tower Grove. I went to her restaurant on Delmar. I supported her, but all the time I was coveting her to come to my ward. I'm telling you this. So this is so important to me, and I'm so emotional about it, because as the chairwoman said, people don't come to North St. Louis. They have this thought of what we don't deserve. And when I moved to North St. Louis, I moved to a much more upper middle class neighborhood than what I had lived in Tower Grove, and they just didn't have the services. And I had the nerve to think that we should have them. I still have the nerve, and I will do any and everything I can. I intend to reach out to the Alderwoman from the 10th, because there's some other plans for both sides of Martin Luther King. I want my legacy to also include that we cleaned up Martin Luther King. It is so repulsive in parts of it, it doesn't make any sense. So if we have the wherewithal to take a dead downtown, which was dead when I came here, did not have any development, and we could put billions of dollars This little money that you're talking about don't even compare. And I will do any and everything. As I said, I'll do 100%, and I'm the person that's against it all. But I will do that to get Martin Luther King cleaned up, and to thank Miss Robbie, because she could go with her millions of dollars and go and sit down and not care about doing something in North St. Louis. And as I said, it has got the other people up and down Martin Luther King, they're excited. Churches have called me, restaurants have called me, some developers have said they want to get in a bus and drive around in my ward. That's the star power. I am actually back trying to talk to Magic again, because I want to bring that star power too. That's how you get things done. You never take no for an answer, especially when it comes to North St. Louis. So I am going to push for whatever it takes to get it done. I think this is worth being outside the box. I surely will push for it, and I'm asking for your favorable recommendation. And if there's something that has to be a compromise, I will work on the compromise. But I cannot let this most important development not happen.
Right.
Thank you.
Just Madam Chair, if I may.
Absolutely.
Zach, there's a correction needed on the presentation. It says 4949 Forest Park Avenue.
Correct, yes.
So that needs to be updated. It's just on the presentation slides, not on the board bill. But otherwise, I would like to move that we pass board bill 66 out with a new pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous roll.
Seeing no objections to previous roll, congratulations, Alderwoman Tyus. Congratulations, Ms. Robbie, and thank you so much. All right. Alderman Browning, you're recognized on Board Bill 72.
Thank you, and thank you to the members of the committee. I am excited to present my first board bill to you today. This is a tax abatement, 15 years, 10 years at 90%, 5 years at 50%, for a very wonderful organization. The Independence Center, I will let them introduce themselves here in a second, but I want to say that I took a tour of this place, doing my due diligence, wanting to make sure that we are spending, when we are abating something, that we are doing something for the community's benefit, for the benefit of St. Louis. And when I say that this organization benefits St. Louis, I am not exaggerating. I think it provides a vital service. It provides care for people that are mentally ill, people that need additional help, people that need a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose, and it gives them that. It's a very effective model. It is exactly, if I had a loved one in St. Louis who had a mental illness, it is exactly where I would want them to be. And I should note that the ripple effect this has, making sure that these people are taken care of, means that they are not out on the street. They are not out dealing with the difficulties of life, but instead they are receiving the assistance and the care that they really do deserve. So I'll let them speak a little more, but I want to say that I am very passionately in support of this project. And I also want to note that even though they are eligible for up to 25 years of tax abatement, they are only asking for 15. The additional benefit here is that they are a nonprofit organization, but in order to be eligible for LIHTC funds, they are creating a for-profit arm that owns this proposed apartment project. That means that when this abatement period, both during the abatement period and after, it will go from being a nonprofit, not paying taxes, to paying taxes directly into the city's budget. So this is a benefit for the city in multiple ways, and I ask for your favorable consideration today. But right now I'm going to hand it over to Trish Holmes, Director of the Independence Center.
Right. Thank you. Madam Clerk, I'll swear you in.
Could you please raise your right hand for me? Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you Alderman Browning for inviting us today to talk. Again, I'm Trish Holmes. I'm Executive Director of Independence Center. And a very brief overview, although I think you said it better than I can many days, is we work with a community, a very vulnerable community that have serious and persistent mental illness. And we offer all of the services, all of the resources that they need to really live an independent life. We help people with their education, we help with their employment, we help with their medication management. And you can't be successful in working and being employed or just literally having that quality of life every day without a safe, affordable home. We have 4 other properties where we have had the pleasure of offering residential units to this community for several years. And we're very excited to expand not only 38 additional units, but they'll be right there on our campus. Our campus, the Independence Center, we've been here for 40 years. We've been at that location for a number of years. And the idea will be those individuals, especially this is designed for those age 55 and up, will be right on our campus. We will be right there to support them to, whether it's still supporting them in their life goals or simply the lack of the isolation. They can literally walk steps away to be part of the community. And again, I think you said the word that I always say, which is belonging. I will hand over to my partner, Eric McMahon, for the details, unless you have any questions about our center. Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Eric McMahon. I'm partner at ND Consulting Group, and we are the development consultant for Independence Center for this project. As Trish stated, this project is called Independence Center Senior. It's a 38-unit, age-restricted, affordable development. We applied for low-income housing tax credits in the fall of 2022. We were awarded in December, so we have a federal and state 9% LIHTC award. A unique component of this is that Independence Center was able to secure $4.5 million of ARPA funding via the Missouri Department of Health, a nonprofit organization, basically to secure development of this project. So that equates to approximately 42% of the development cost. Total development cost is $10.6 million. We have 38 units, and 6 of those units will be restricted at 30% AMI, so very affordable units. In addition, Independence Center has committed to providing rental subsidy to all 38 units to ensure affordability for their tenants going forward. At this point, our plans are pretty far along, and we're working with some other city approvals on zoning and Board of Adjustment on design. But other than that, the project is lined up. We've secured lenders, debt, equity, and it's definitely an exciting project.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead with the committee. Alderman Cone.
No questions.
Okay, Alderwoman Slicer.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all being here. Can you, with SLDC, Zach, talk a little bit about your policy on these projects and why that is followed? The 10%, 90, and 5 years or 10 years at 90%, 5 years at 50%.
Since this is receiving LIHTC from the state, the compliance period is 15 years, so we like to mirror the compliance period with the tax payment period. So we know that this project will be affordable for at least 15 years, and we would like to copy that. That's why we recommend 15 years of tax abatement for all LIHTC projects.
We anticipate this project being affordable for much longer, though. That's the entire intent.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll say that we selected a 30-year affordability. So there's an automatic 30, but you can opt out after 15 years. From there, you can agree to do 5, 10, or additional 15. Independence Center chose an additional 15, so it will be affordable for the full 30-year compliance period.
We don't anticipate ever, unless this property sells, that's basically the reason there's
Absolutely, that's our model, is to really, we expect those to be affordable forever, really. And that's the way it is with our other properties. They are actually coming up, I believe, on the 30 years, but we have absolutely no plans to change our model.
And what happens, I just, out of curiosity, what happens then? I mean, do you all get different grants to continue the affordability, or is it sort of a TBD kind of thing?
Well, obviously on a low-income housing tax credit project or a project called Section 202 or 811, which are Section 8 grants, at the end of the affordability period, you can always opt to go into a low-income housing tax credit syndication. So, theoretically, after year 15, they could go back and ask for more credits to rehab the project and ensure that it lasts another 15, 20 some odd years. So that is one of the flexibilities of the program.
Okay, well, if you apply for that, I hope that you get it. I wish you good luck, and I'm looking forward to supporting this. Thank you.
Vice Chair Sonia.
Hello. In my previous life, I was a mental health advocate, so I am kind of familiar with you all's work. I really don't have any questions that you haven't answered. I just wanted to read aloud that this will have 6 units at 30% AMI, 28 units at 50% AMI, and 6 units at 60% AMI, and also just how important it is. A lot of the services we have for mental health are not, connected to independent living centers that a lot of our seniors have. They're usually, extreme care cases where they need, 24/7 supervision, or it's just not for that age group in particular. I think our city is really lacking in those resources and facilities. So I just wanted to make sure that I shared that information with the public. And thank you all for doing your work, and the sponsor for doing his work as well and being open to questions, and just kind of emphasizing that he was, being diligent and making sure that he was advocating for abatement for a project that is a public good.
All right, any other questions? Follow-up questions or comments? All right, thank you so much. Again, I followed the work that you all have done for years as well, and it was so nice to meet you and hear your passion about this work in the affordable housing space, but also in the in our care for our most vulnerable, some of our most vulnerable constituents and residents here in the city of St. Louis. So with that, I'll invite Alderman Browning up to close.
Thank you. I'm glad you all had a chance to ask some questions of this wonderful organization. I, again, can't express how much I support this, and am excited to do this for them. With that, I do ask for your favorable consideration in passing this out with a do pass recommendation.
So moved. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Second, previous rule.
Hearing no objections, rather to previous role. Congratulations, Alderman Brown, and congratulations to you all as well. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All righty. For the finale, Alderman Cone, would you like to carry us on through Board Bill 75?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time this afternoon, and thank you for indulging me with Board Bill 75. Board Bill 75 is a multi-site, scattered site redevelopment plan. It is a long time in the making, and we do have some representatives from RISE and from obviously SLDC here. I'd like to give Jess the opportunity to talk a little bit about the project, because it is something that I worked on with the former alderwoman of the 20th Ward, and now the alderwoman of the 7th Ward. This is in the Gravelly Park, Dutchtown, predominantly Dutchtown neighborhoods, and very exciting project. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Jess.
All right. Would you please raise your right hand for me? Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jess Henry, and I work for RISE Community Development. I am here on behalf of Marquette Homes Partners LP, which is the development entity that will execute on our Marquette Homes development. As Alderman Cone stated, this has been in the works for a very long time. I've been working on it myself for about 4.5 years, my entire tenure at Rise. This is really kind of a phase 2 to our Chippewa Park development, which many of you may be familiar with. And it's a scattered site, combined historic rehab and new construction development. We'll have 20 units of new construction and 40 units of rehab in 6 different buildings. We are using several LRA properties. Site selection was very strategic to try and eliminate, to kind of rehab some buildings that were either kind of nuisances for the community or important historic buildings that were at risk of being lost if rehabilitation does not start soon. And then with our vacant sites, many of them are LRA-owned properties suitable for infill construction. This is a really special project profile. It's very important in these neighborhoods to serve families. So we have 27 3-bedroom units. 20 of those are the new construction units, so they will be very well designed to accommodate those families. At the same time, we have been working on a partnership with the St. Louis VA healthcare systems. Many of the social workers there who we know have a very difficult time finding small, suitable 1-bedrooms for their veterans who are at risk of homelessness. So we have also are incorporating 13 1-bedroom units designed very intentionally hand in hand with the VA social work team. And 10 of those we anticipate will be filled by veterans and are designated as 30% AMI units. Our other units will be designated for those earning around 60% of area and median income. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I live in this neighborhood. This is a real labor of love for me, and very much in line with the work that RISE and our partner Lutheran Development Group have done over the years. So again, thank you for the opportunity and happy to answer any questions.
All right. Alderwoman Slicer.
Thank you so much. So this is following that same LIHTC 15.5 policy. Great. You mentioned LRA properties, and I do see a line in here for acquisition. So these are properties that already have control over, or you're seeking control over the properties?
So they either own or currently have a letter of intent on those properties. So there's a couple that still would need to be closed. 3305 Merrimack is one in particular I can think of offhand. But they have site control of those properties, but ownership is in flux depending upon which property you're talking about.
Okay, so it's just in coordination with LRA. We have no reason to believe there'll be anything holding up.
No, we have full site control options. We anticipate closing by the end of this year, hopefully this fall, and our options all go through that period.
Great, that's my only question. I'm really excited about the family units, the 3 bedrooms and more, absolutely a need in the affordable space, and especially in Dutchtown with so many families and children being there. So thank you, I look forward to supporting this bill.
Alderman Browning.
This looks like a fantastic project. Really excited to support it. Just a quick question. It mentions the former Melba Theater building, which will be white box for commercial use. Could you expand on what that means?
That one is actually located in the 7th Ward, so I will turn it over. Yeah, it is. Still learning ward boundaries.
Yeah, so we were really excited to work with Garcia Properties to get that building, to get site control on that building. They've worked for the last several years to try and rehab it themselves, and ultimately it's just really tough to finance with the size of the buildings. Perfect to kind of fit into our LIHTC project. However, at Rise and Lutheran Development Group, using low-income housing tax credits, we're primarily housing developers. We do have limited amounts of commercial space, but we really can't fold full commercial development into the project budget at this time with the sources that we have. So we've done this on other projects. We will white box it, identify suitable tenants, allow for commercial improvement, tenant improvements down the road, and hopefully be able to offer this space to community users, which is typical on what we've also done with our Chippewa Park and other developments.
Thank you. And just to clarify, white boxing refers to the interior. The exterior will be retained, correct?
We are using federal and state historic tax credits on this, so we will be doing full historic rehab in line with the federal requirements. And yes, so the exterior will be fully redone, and then the inside will basically be white box to allow for future improvements.
Thank you, and thank you for doing that. No more questions.
And if I'm not mistaken, all of the existing buildings that are there are currently within a federal or state historic district already, so they won't have to have a separate application for qualification for either one of those programs. And I believe that's for the entire Scattered Sky Sites geography, if I'm not mistaken, because there's multiple historic districts around that area. But the Melba in particular, for many folks in the neighborhood, even those of us that live in the 3rd Ward, drive that stretch or ride our bikes down that stretch of South Grand all the time. And really, once you get south of Utah, down to roughly Merrimack, it's a really difficult stretch. Lots of vacancy, lots of criminal activity, lots of opportunity.
All right, Vice Chair Saya.
I'm a co-sponsor, so obviously I'm in support. And some of what I was going to say has already been asked by my diligent colleagues. So I won't repeat too much. I'm just glad that we're doing this, and I actually really appreciate both you and Alderman Cohn's collective use. You know, I like that type of collaboration amongst us as alders when we're doing a project. Hey, this is technically not within the ward that I represent, but I know that some of the same issues are in this area, and how can we make it happen? And similar to Alderman Browning, I did make some inquiries about making sure that, you know, federal historic guidelines were in place, and I was told what Alderman Cohn cleared up is it's already within that track, so that has to be there. So I just want to thank you all for your work, and I'm, like Alderwoman Schweitzer said, I'm so glad that we are doing 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units, that we're not knocking it down and trying to build a single family home, that we're keeping it affordable, because I think there's a real concern that as we improve and as we develop, that it will lead to some of the displacement and gentrification. And I think when you have these type of affordable family units, you make sure that our wards and our communities can truly be a place for all. So just thank you for that.
Yeah, I would add, Alderwoman, we have a lot of opportunity for 2- and 3-bedroom units, certainly in the Dutchtown, Gravois Park, Mount Pleasant area. We've got a lot of, as you know, a lot of families, a lot of young people that live in those communities. We have a ton of 1-bedroom apartments everywhere. Even the 100-year-old housing stock, and apartments are kind of built that way. So it's nice to have more of that happening. I've been an advocate of that for many, many years down here, both on the Planning Commission and as an alderperson, particularly with projects in the Central Corridor, because we continually see projects in the Central Corridor that only have 1-bedroom apartments and maybe some 2-bedroom apartments in there, but hardly ever, at least in the past, any 3-bedroom units. And it's something that I continue to emphasize even today with the student housing that's being built in the Central Corridor. Many students would prefer to have a roommate because they would then be able to share the cost of utilities, internet, phone, electric, all of those are fixed costs, for per unit type of a thing, or costs that are associated per unit, not necessarily fixed, but it's always nice to share those costs and the burden of them as a student. And we don't do a very good job of promoting that in the past. So I'm very, very excited about this project for all of the reasons that you all were asking and stating, because of the amount of time that it has taken to get to this point. It is a very exciting project for me. Some of the buildings that are included in this scattered site plan have been vacant for over 20 years or longer. There's one in particular that I referenced earlier, 3305 Merrimack. It's a 3-story building that was actually bought by CDA underneath the Obama era neighborhood stabilization program. So it hasn't been eligible for demolition because there's federal prohibitions on doing so with those particular funds that were used to acquire the building. And those were used in targeted areas within the city, predominantly North St. Louis, Southeast City, because of the level of foreclosures that was happening in those communities during that Great Recession of 2007, 2009. And it has been a huge blight for the neighbors around there. We have a very active but finite amount of resources on a basically 2-block stretch of Merrimack, and we're hoping to continue to grow that and make it more wonderful for people. But it's hard to do that when you have plate glass windows that are falling from a 3rd-story window, and ripping awnings, scaring people as they're standing in line to get a treat next door at the cafe. And so I'm happy that RISE and Lutheran Development Group are partnering together on this particular scattered site plan. It also fits into an overall plan that we've been working on as a community with Dutchtown Main Streets, down the Dutchtown South Community Corporation, and other neighborhood groups, including the Dutchtown Community Improvement District, on the redevelopment area of Virginia, Merrimack, and Grand. And it's just, I can go on and on and on about this. I'm so excited that it's finally coming to pass and that we'll be able to see some physical representation of all of the work that's taken place behind the scenes for so many years.
Yeah.
So I would certainly ask for your favorable consideration on Board Bill number 75.
Absolutely. It's been encouraging this meeting today to see how excited people are and about the developments and how much further along, even 4 years time, but how much further along some neighborhoods are than others, and the considerations that have been taken to make sure that we can see and move projects like this forward. Noting again the time, right? And the due diligence that my colleague brought up earlier. So with that, I'll accept a motion for favorable consideration and due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous row. All right, seeing no objection. I keep saying objection. All right, congratulations, Alderman Cone, and congratulations to you, Jess. Thank you for all your hard work. All right. Do we have any resolutions?
We have none.
Okay. Anyone want to discuss anything? I would like to mention that going on starting at 2:00 on Page and Belt, I mentioned this during the full board meeting, but for anybody that's listening, they're doing a safety study. They're doing some imagining of Page Boulevard, Route D. And again, that's at the corner of Page and Belt, right in front of Better Family Life. It's actually a family-friendly event. You can walk there, bike there, ride there, but please have your voice heard about how you would like to see some safety improvements on Route D, which again is Page Boulevard. Any other announcements?
We have none.
All right, we were all present, so no need for excused members. So with that, I'll accept the motion for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
All right, thank you, everyone.